It all comes as President Biden and other world leaders are in Japan for the G7 summit. The war in Ukraine has dominated the meeting so far. We just learned the U.S. and G7 allies agreed to send F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez is following it all for us. Raf, it's great to see you. So in addition to these F-16s, President Biden and the other allies also now issuing new sanctions against Russia. Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, Vicky, so starting with the F-16s, this has been a long-standing request of the Ukrainians, and it's followed a similar pattern to what we've seen with other requests for advanced weapons, that first the allies say no, and then they say maybe, and then they finally get to yes. Now, we do not at this point know the details about the F-16s. They are American-made warplanes, but they're used by a number of NATO allies all across Europe, so not clear right now who's going to supply them to the Ukrainians. Not clear when exactly they might arrive and whether they would get there in time for this long-awaited offensive, counteroffensive that the Ukrainians are planning. But this would be a major, major step if the NATO allies do end up giving these combat aircraft to the Ukrainians. As you said, the G7 also planning to announce new sanctions on Russia. There have been wave after wave of sanctions so far, but these new ones we expect will be aimed at cutting down Russia's exports, especially industrial exports. And one of the challenges facing the G7 leaders is how do you cut the economic relationship between Russia and China without putting the rest of the G7 on a collision course with the Chinese? Guys.
A lot we're watching here. Raf, I also know that Ukrainian President Zelensky is expected to join the G7 summit in person later this weekend. But today he made an unexpected stop, yet another one, in Saudi Arabia. Can you just give us some more context on this visit and talk about the significance of him joining the G7 meeting in person?
Yeah, that's right. So President Zelensky went to Saudi Arabia today, to the city of Jeddah, and he joined a summit of the Arab League. So this is a gathering of the different Arab states across the Middle East and North Africa. He relayed a kind of message that we're familiar with, that the world needs to stand with Ukraine, that Ukraine is a victim of aggression. But then he kind of tailored his message for his largely Muslim audience, pointing out that Ukraine's indigenous Tatar population, who are Muslim, are living right now under Russian occupation. Guys, it was interesting. He was in the same room as Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad, who's actually a close ally of Vladimir Putin. He's part of this kind of rogues gallery of leaders from countries like North Korea, Belarus, Iran, who have been in absolute lockstep with the Russians throughout this war. He said, I know we may not see this war the same way, but I hope you will take an honest look at what's happening on the ground. Guys.
We'll see what comes of all this. NBC's Raf Sanchez. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.